Hello everyone. I'm very happy to see you all back on my channel. In the previous episode, after all the events that happened in such a short period of time, things that could have knocked anyone down, Jack still chose to stand firm. Not because he wasn't tired, not because he wasn't under pressure, but because he knew if he let go at that moment, there would be nothing left to hold on to. And it was in that situation that Jack made a decision that was far from easy, when he agreed to support Uncle Dung in buying back the piece of land, so that he could leave behind all the noise that had once made his life heavy, to start again, a new journey. No more complicated worries, no more pressure from the past, only a small piece of land, a quiet space, and an opportunity to begin again from the start. Uncle Dung left, without bringing too many things with him. No heavy luggage, no material possessions of great value, but in return, a lighter state of mind, a clearer choice. He returned to his small garden, where everything was still very simple, still messy, still unfinished. But right there, he began again little by little, cleaning every small corner of the garden with his own hands, repairing every detail of the house himself, doing everything, even the smallest tasks. No rus, no hast, just step by step, slowly, but surely. A simple life, not noisy, not flashy, yet it carries something very clear. That is hope. Hope for stability, hope for a peaceful life, hope that, after everything that has happened, a person can still begin again. As for Jack, on the other side, he has no option to stop, no pause to rest, no space to separate himself from the pressure. Everything he can still manage, even if it's little, even if it's difficult. He pours it all into the company, keeping nothing for himself, not calculating gains or losses. Because in his mind right now, the company is not just work, but also his last opportunity, the only thing that can help him stand again after everything. He believes, as long as he can keep the company, as long as he doesn't let everything collapse completely, then no matter how hard it gets, there is still a path forward, there is still a starting point for the plans ahead. But reality does not unfold the way he hopes. Not gentle, not smooth, and it does not give him much time to adapt. In the days that follow, everything seems to stand still. Jack's company cannot recover. There are no signs of improvement, no clear progress. Everything almost remains unchanged. No new projects are launched, no contracts are signed. The plans are still there. The ideas have yet to become reality. Former partners, those who once trusted him, once walked alongside him, now begin to change. Not that they completely turn their backs, but they are no longer as certain as before. No more quick nods of agreement, no more clear promises. Instead, there is hesitation, silence, invisible distances, yet enough to be felt. The phone calls are no longer frequent. They gradually decrease, become intermittent, then sparse. Meetings that were once scheduled keep getting postponed. No specific reasons, no direct refusals, but everyone understands what is happening. It is not because they don't know who Jack is, not because they have never worked with him, but because they are no longer certain, no longer confident enough to bet on an unclear future. They do not know whether he can move the company forward or not. And in business, uncertainty is what makes people hesitate the most. Pressure does not come loudly, it does not show through direct words, but it exists in every moment. It returns once again, but this time it is different, heavier, more silent, and harder to face, because there are no longer many choices, no longer many chances to make mistakes. And then, on one afternoon, When everything seems to slow down, Jack and his mother, Mrs. Loy, decide to visit Uncle Dung, not because of anything important, simply to see how his new life is going. The new house appears before them, not big, not elaborate, no luxurious details, but it gives a very different feeling, a sense of warmth, very clear, surrounded by a garden, freshly turned soil beds, not yet fully planted, still with empty spaces. The scent of new earth still lingers, simple but real. Every small corner shows clearly that this place is being cared for, being rebuilt by Uncle Dung's own hands. No ruse, no perfection from the start, just step by step, but full of effort. The atmosphere here is not noisy, no pressure, no constant phone calls, no numbers to worry about, only peace, a kind of peace that perhaps, for a very long time, Jack has not been able to feel. But the moment they stepped through the doorway, before they could fully feel the peace of that space, Jack's footsteps suddenly stopped, not because of something obvious, but a sense of unease, fleeting, yet enough to make him pause. Dung. He called out, not loudly, but with a hint of urgency. There was no response, no sound at all. The quiet space suddenly felt emptier. 1 second of silence, then another, and that silence was no longer normal. Jack turned to look at Mrs. Loy. Their eyes met, no words needed, yet both understood something was wrong. Without hesitation, they hurried toward the back garden, the place they thought Uncle Dung would be working. Their footsteps became rushed, no longer calm like when they first arrived. And then, the moment they saw what was in front of them, both of them froze. Dung was lying there, motionless, in the unfinished patch of land, where the soil beds were still incomplete. No movement, no sign of response. Sweat soaked through his shirt, seeping into the ground beneath him, his face pale, colorless. Everything happened too suddenly, too abruptly. Mom, Uncle. Jack's voice choked. He could no longer stay calm. He rushed forward, almost without thinking. Mrs. Loy panicked, her steps trembling, unable to hide her fear. Oh my God, what happened? No time to guess. No time to wait. Jack knelt down, quickly checking Uncle Dung's condition. There was still breathing, but weak. A chill ran down his spine. We have to get him to the hospital immediately, he said quickly, firmly. The two of them, almost at the same time, worked together, lifting Uncle Dung up. Even though everything was clumsy, they tried to be as fast as possible. No one said anything more. No one asked anything. There was only one thought: to get him to the hospital, as quickly as possible. The car sped off, in urgency. Inside, the silence was suffocating. Jack drove, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Mrs. Loy sat in the back, holding Uncle Dung, calling his name repeatedly, as if trying to keep him conscious. Each passing minute felt longer than usual, heavier than usual. No one knew what would happen next. When they arrived at the hospital, everything moved faster. The doctors immediately took him in, rushing him inside. The emergency room doors closed, separating them from what was inside. And then, the waiting began. There was nothing left to do, nothing more they could control. Only silence remained. Jack sat there, his hands clasped together, eyes fixed on the floor. Mrs. Loy sat beside him, saying nothing. Their occasional glances were filled with worry. Time slowed down. Every minute seemed to stretch longer. After a while, the doctor came out. Both of them stood up immediately, their eyes fixed on the doctor, waiting. After the initial examination, the doctor said Uncle Dung's condition was caused by high blood pressure, along with overexertion over a long period, heavy work, cleaning, repairing, gardening. All of it exceeded what his body could handle before it had time to adapt. His effort became the cause, and the result was that his body couldn't endure it, leading to fainting. Hearing that, Jack let out a breath, a long breath, as if releasing some of the pressure. At least, it wasn't something more serious. But even so, deep down, he still couldn't fully relax, because he understood this wouldn't be just once. If they weren't careful, everything could happen again. After hours of treatment, when his condition gradually stabilized, finally, Uncle Dung woke up. His eyes opened, slowly. No panique, no loss of control. Just a gaze, tired, but aware. When he saw Jack and Mrs. Loy standing beside him, he gave a faint smile, a very gentle smile. "It's okay," he said slowly. "Ai fine." The words sounded simple, ordinary, but that simplicity made it hard to hold back emotions, because behind it was a quiet burden, an effort to not make others worry. Jack said nothing. He just stood there, looking at him. Mrs. Loy turned away slightly, as if hiding her feelings. The room grew quiet, but not heavy, rather, a calm stillness. Right after that, Jack took out his phone. He didn't hesitate long. He dialed. On the other end, lytutien. His voice softened, lower than usual. "Can you cook some porridge for me? Bring it to the hospital for Uncle." No long explanation. No unnecessary words. Just one sentence, but enough to understand the situation. Tutien didn't ask further. No details needed, no reasons required. She simply replied softly, "Yes, I'll do it right away." A short answer, but firm. That afternoon, while everything outside went on as usual, Tien brought a still warm container of porridge to the hospital. Her steps were quick, but steady. When she saw Uncle Dung, awake, able to sit up, she let out a quiet breath. A sense of relief passed through her. She sat beside him, saying little, gently scooping each spoonful of porridge, blowing softly, then feeding him. Simple gestures, yet full of care. The atmosphere in the room was no longer tense. Instead, there was a natural warmth. No need for loud words. No need for anything extraordinary. Just being there, just staying together, was enough for people to feel something deeply familiar, like a family. And even in that moment, when everything seemed to have calmed again, everything seemed to slow down, lighter. But somewhere, there was still something, not truly over yet, but everything did not stop there. Just as everyone had begun to breathe a sigh of relief, as the atmosphere in the hospital room had just started to feel lighter, as everyone thought things were finally under control, once again, that sense of reassurance was pulled back. The hospital room door gently opened. The doctor returned. No longer as rushed as before, but not relaxed either. His eyes, slightly lowered, his face carried a sense of careful consideration. A brief silence before he spoke. "We need to run a few more tests." His voice was not loud, but clear. "There are a few indicators." He paused for a moment, as if choosing the right words. "That are not normal." That sentence was not long, not complicated, but it was enough to make the room feel heavy again. Jack stood still. Tien paused her hand. Mrs. Loy said nothing. No one asked immediately. No one reacted right away, but in each of their eyes, the same feeling appeared. A sense, unclear, yet enough to make their hearts sink. No one knew exactly what it was. No one understood how serious it might be. But all of them could feel it. This might not be over yet. Was another issue gradually revealing itself? Or was it all just a temporary sign? There were no answers yet, only assumptions and waiting. The doctor did not say much more. He simply gave gentle instructions about the next steps, the tests that needed to be done, the indicators that required closer monitoring. Everything would take time. And that waiting time became the most worrying part. Because while waiting, nothing is certain, nothing is clear. Only silence and uncontrollable thoughts. Jack lowered his head slightly, saying nothing. He understood. Things were not as simple as he had just hoped. The reassurance was only temporary. Ahead, there might still be things beyond expectation. Tien sat beside him, her eyes quietly turning toward Uncle Dung. Her hand still holding the bowl of porridge, but she no longer continued feeding him. A moment of stillness. Not because she was tired, but because she was thinking. Mrs. Loy remained silent, a trace of sadness in her eyes. No words were needed, yet everyone understood. The worry was spreading. Questions, with no answers. Possibilities, no one dared to think about. What would the next test results show? Would the numbers return to normal, or would they open a different path? Uncle Dung's health, was it truly stable as it seemed, or just a temporary calm? Meanwhile, on another side, Jack was still pushing himself. The pressure from work had not eased at all. The difficulties in his company were still there. No new projects, no clear changes. Everything was still waiting for him to face it. Two pressures, two worries, seemed to be piling up at the same time. No break, no time to prepare. Everything came together, relentless, yet silent. Would Jack have enough strength to continue carrying it all, when on one side is work, and on the other is family? When both cannot be let go, what path will he choose to move forward? And Tien, the one who has always been by his side in his hardest moments, will she continue to be the support that keeps him from falling? Amid all the worries, amid all the pressure, will her presence be enough to keep him steady? And Uncle Dung, after everything that has just happened, after the unusual signs that have appeared, what will he have to face? What answers will the upcoming test results bring? Relief, or a new challenge? Everything still lies ahead. There is no ending yet, and the story cannot stop here. What has just happened is only a part. What comes next may be even more unpredictable. Stay tuned for the next episode to follow the latest developments. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. See you again in the next episodes.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục mang đến cho mọi người video về câu chuyện của Tử Tiên và Giác nha mọi người. Mọi người nhìn thấy con chim này nó đứng im. Nếu mà như mà ai không biết thì sẽ nghĩ nó là con thú bông hoặc là con gấu bông mình để trên đây được không? Nhưng nếu mọi người thấy cái mắt nó không? Cái mắt nó điếm đấy, cái mắt nó trêu trêu đấy, nó đang giả bộ đấy. Nó đang giả bộ đấy. Cái con bảo bối này nó đang giả bộ ấy. À, cắn cái tay xem nào. Trêu nó đó. Mình trêu nó, còn bình thường là đứng im á, nó giả bộ á mọi người. Trêu nó này. Ê, đừng vô mỏ nha. Đó, nó đứng im rồi đó. Nó giả bộ rồi, nó giả bộ là thú nhồi bông rồi. À. Đau là ăn đòn á nha, cắn giỡn nhẹ nhẹ thôi nha, nó chỉ dám cắn nhẹ thôi, tại vì hồi bữa nó giỡn mạnh quá xong mình gõ một cái mỏ nó, xong giờ nó sợ rồi. Đấy, giờ cái lưỡi nhột quá. Nó là con thật, phim thật á mọi người. Bảo bối ơi, bảo bối nói gì đi. Nó thích thì nó mới nói à. Nó đang còn nhỏ lắm, nó chưa biết nói á mọi người. Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người ở video sau.